Welcome, everyone, to episode 40 of Creatives Grab Coffee. Today, we're welcomed by Liam from Altitude Media. Before we kind of jump into it, Liam, just kind of give us a little brief description of what Altitude Media is.
Yeah, for sure. So we're based out here on the island of Newfoundland in the middle of the Atlantic on the east coast of Canada in a really old city called St.Johns, the oldest city in North America, actually. And so in 2017, I was getting my engineering degree and funny enough, picked up a camera, fell in love with it, saw an opportunity here in the market to, provide content creation services. This is also when Peter McKinnon was just getting going. So being able to, learn and enhance my skills in videography, did a lot more of that instead of studying engineering, but basically continued to grow the business while I got my degree. And then when I did finish my civil engineering degree, I continued working on the business full time since then for the past 2 years. So what we do is video production here locally in any and all forms, whether it be short form, long form, or like documentary style. We did a web series last year that we produced. So content in all forms.
So you're the second person we have. We brought on the show from Newfoundland. We had Braden King previously, and did he not also study engineering? So you guys both studied engineering?
Is that the trend in Newfoundland? Go to engineering, go into video production right after?
Yeah, so Braden's pretty much my best friend. We've done a lot of traveling, and yes, we did do engineering school. And funny enough, I got two roommates, also did engineering, and both work in marketing now as well. So yes, I guess it is the trend here in Newfoundland.
Something about engineering schools there that don't motivate their students to continue with it.
This is a bad advertising for engineering in Newfoundland.
There could be something there. There definitely could be something there that we're tapping into.
So 2 years into it, you're just fresh out, right? Basically.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2021. So now I've been full-time in the business for the past 2 years.
So I would say we're kind of in a similar situation. Like we mentioned before, even though we kind of started the business back in 2014-ish, if it felt like we weren't really treating it like a business, I would say we're also kind of 2 years into it. I'm just wondering, what are some of the challenges you faced so far running it?
Yeah, so I would say since I got out, when I was a student, it wasn't that big of a focus for me. It was anytime a job came up, it was great excitement. Sure, let's take it on. But now, I'm not a student and I need to make a full-time income from this. So it's you really got to keep this business afloat and manage your cash flow and such. So in saying that, it's keeping the work steady and going. I looked at my revenue over the last 2 years, and throughout the year, you see it go like this, right? I don't know if it's like this for you guys. It seems to be pretty common across video production businesses. So this year, I'm really trying to figure out ways where I can kind of alleviate that and get more steady cash flow, more steady projects coming in. So, it seems that the number one thing that video businesses struggle with is lead generation. Has that been a challenge for you guys, or how do you guys think about that?
We get, what's interesting is that I would say about late into, I would say Q4 of last year or late last year, well into this year, we're getting a pretty consistent amount of leads coming in through our website. I would say
almost on a daily basis.
On a daily basis, there's quite a few that come in, but we've started to focus on filtering them out even more lately. So I suspect that the amount of actual leads, I'm not talking about those dumb SEO or those AI lead entries that I can't stand.
They're constantly coming in now, especially
it's increased so much in the last week. It's driving me bananas. I wish I could blacklist every one of those companies, but I don't want to give them attention. Yeah, we're trying to filter them out a bit more because Kyrill and I actually did the numbers on the projects we're doing and how much we're supposed to make off of it. And we realized, hey, you know what? The entry points we had for a lot of leads coming in was lower than what we should have been setting the expectation at. For example, we had our project starting out at $5K, right? That was the first entry point, $5 to $7.5K. And we just did the numbers on what the total cost is for a production process, and we were like, you know what, it has to be starting at least 10. So we've kind of increased it. So I suspect that the amount of leads coming in are going to be a lot less. But the ones that come in at least will be a bigger fish for us. But in terms of what we're doing for,
because they're more quality, Dario. Like I know exactly what you mean. Like where the lead generation process should be evolving. Obviously, in the beginning, you want to try to get as many leads as possible in the beginning, just to know that it's kind of working. And then as you start getting more and more and more, you realize there's only a certain amount of time you could spend with each and every lead. So then, to your point, Dario, that we have to filter them out in a certain way. It's better to filter down to get more quality leads. So we would rather get maybe 10 solid leads that could actually have potential than go through 100 leads where only maybe 5 to 10 of them would actually be decent to even explore, right? So it's all about figuring out what works for you as a business.
So what does your guys' qualifying process look like?
Well, I mean, I guess it starts off from our contact form. Right over there, we kind of decide who's coming in through the door. And then from there, it's literally just a question of money, right? Based on what they need. So like qualifying factors, I guess for us is like to talk to us, you need 10 right off the bat. It's like you need at least 10 G's to talk to us. And then from there, we're kind of going based on what they need. And then if they need more, it's like, you need more money. You don't have the funding. Well, you can't get that, right? Another factor would be, I guess, I don't know how it's going to be with these 10K plus leads, Kyrill, because to start off with that budget, to start off with that budget, it's going to be a different type of animal compared to like, we only have 5K and we want the world, right? Do you know what I mean? Like to start off from that, it's already like a special type of lead where it's like, okay, we kind of know what we need, yada, yada. You might get one where it's like, yeah, we have like a 20K budget, but they want $60,000 worth of work, right? So I don't know how it's going to work out with these new leads that'll come in. But from the previous ones we've had where they did have these types of budgets, it was pretty easy breezy.
I think it's because there's a sense of like where they've already kind of prepared and done their homework on why they need to spend that money and kind of understanding the strategy behind why they need video at the first place. Like money's typically like a good indicator of like how serious a company can be and if they've done any prep work. If a client hasn't thought to themselves how they should probably use or utilize video, they're going to be more hesitant to spend some money, right? Where it's like, I don't know what I need video for. Maybe I'm only willing to spend like $2,000-$3,000. Can't go more than that because then I might lose it for nothing. Whereas what we're hoping for is as the bigger budgets come in, it's like, all right, we need to hit this goal, this goal, and this goal. In order to do that, we need $15,000 to achieve it. All right, now let's find someone who can solve our problem with this budget. So
that also might be what they just set aside for it. They might not know because
or something like that.
But normally that would be like
it's
the
at
first,
least an idea.
Yeah, the first step is like, do they have the money? Step 2, I guess, is like what do they want, and what do they think they want? What do they actually need? And are they willing to kind of like listen, right, to the experts?
What problem are they trying to solve essentially? I was just gonna say like, what have you experienced at this point, like doing lead generation in St.Johns?
Well, the thing here locally, I mean, it must be probably similar in your market, is you have your freelance videographer, right? Which is just your standalone guy, which was me like 2.5 years ago, just going around with a gimbal and a Sony A7. And then you've got a really high-end agency, right? And so we're trying to bridge the gap right in between. And, obviously here, a lot of tire kickers, a lot of people that think they're going to get a video for $400 and so. And we just recently, so I want to ask, my next question would be, have you guys done anything paid marketing on social? Because I just recently got into that and I recently had not seen any results before, but we just ran a campaign and have been able to book a ton of calls. Saw a lot of success from that. Is that something that you guys have done before?
What are you using as the platforms? Like, are you using Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn? What are you using?
Yeah, so it's a Facebook and Instagram campaign. So I think we're doing about $15 per spend per day. And what it is, it's a lead form that they fill out right on Facebook or Instagram. And basically I get their email and then I have someone who manages the leads and then books in on a call with me through Calendly. So, and what that video was, it was myself on camera, like I am right here, and quick 45-second video. And what I spoke to was the fact that I felt that video marketing here locally still hasn't caught on like it has in bigger cities like Vancouver or Toronto. And I see that as an opportunity. And then I spoke to that, and then spoke about what clients we've worked with here locally, which are some pretty well-known brands. And then my offer was a video marketing boot camp. Basically, let's kickstart your business at the start of this year by doing some video production and video marketing. And from that, we were able to book now 11 calls in 2 weeks. And that's actually why I asked about qualifying leads, because sometimes I'm getting on calls and it's just like, okay, you weren't a fit. So what I did to adjust that was, I think what you guys said you're doing, you're within the contact form, you have a budget option, right? You guys said you're starting out at 10K. For me, I also went in and did, okay, 4 to 6 is the starting point there.
Wouldn't it be better to do LinkedIn for you? Because like the type of leads that you want to get, I'm guessing at least like types that you get on Facebook might be like smaller businesses which are dealing with smaller budgets. But if you're doing LinkedIn, you'll get bigger companies that are looking at it, right?
Dario, you have to look at the market that he's in. He's in St.Johns. There's not as many major corporations or businesses that are based out of there. A lot of the companies he's probably dealing with are, at least this is what I'm guessing, are probably like on the smaller to medium end kind of sizes. And maybe his market is more so on Facebook and Instagram. Like what works for us in Toronto may not necessarily work for him, right? It's a completely different market that he's working in. Am I right?
I definitely think you're correct in saying that. But Dario, I think what we plan to do is that once we see ad burnout within Meta, because now we've proven that this has worked on Facebook. I mean, we've booked a lot of calls now, doing a couple of pitches this week. It's been a great success, which was honestly, I was completely surprised. I didn't think it was going to work. But we've seen a great success with it. And now I think you're right. We should, once we see ad burnout on Meta, we'll move into LinkedIn. But the thing about LinkedIn is, you're right, it's more qualified people that are on that platform, but it's much more expensive.
It's crazy expensive on LinkedIn. Like I was looking at running some ads on it ourselves, and I was like, let's just try organic at this rate.
Yeah, unless you put enough money behind your ads, depending on the platform that you're in, you're just going to be throwing money away for nothing. Like you're not going to get anywhere with just like $5 a day or something on certain platforms. So in order to see any kind of result, you need like 40 or 50, because then you're just going to be spending money for nothing.
Are you using Google Ads?
Yeah, so I do search ads. Now, I really should go and hire someone who actually knows their way around that platform. Myself, I've just set up a pretty basic campaign. Clicks are good, but I don't think it's optimized to where it could be.
Same boat. We're in the same boat. Like I ran whatever I did, but I actually this week I was thinking maybe we should hire someone that knows their stuff on on that platform, because I don't think I did like the best job at it. But you know what? Like it is getting a lot of clicks.
It's trial and error. Like I find that it's trial and error whether you hire someone or you don't. You know, it's good to kind of get a general sense of the platform beforehand and understand what's good and what isn't. And then, as Dario mentioned, sometimes know, and as you mentioned as well, know where your limits are, and that at what point it would be a good idea to start bringing in an expert that can help. You know, obviously like the very basics you could probably handle, but maybe some more advanced search techniques or whatever it might be, it would be good to bring in more expertise.
You could also do the course. I was thinking of doing the certificate course for AdWords, because in the long term, it could save a lot of money and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny because the keywords for our industry are very specific. There's not that many compared to other ones. It's a very small list.
Yeah, you're so right about that. And when it comes to hiring an expert for this, get someone from a referral or read reviews. I had a guy reach out to me and I decided, okay, you know what? Sure, I'll hire this guy to do my Google search ads. Next thing I know, I have banner ads showing up on websites in like Turkey and India or something. This is what this guy did for me, and I was paying for him.
Oh,
that's the default.
I was just like,
that's the default setting if you don't select something third parties.
Exactly,
yeah, that's what he did. He left that on.
I mean, I couldn't even believe that.
See, that's the importance of knowing at least a basic understanding of some of these platforms, because you might accidentally hire someone who actually doesn't know his work, and then you're kind of screwed, like in your situation there. Like I remember once we were trying to see about hiring someone much earlier on, and I remember Dario, he called me the next day. He's like, yeah, so I looked into what they were telling us that we should do, and it's a complete scam that they're doing this.
No, it wasn't that. It was like the stuff they wanted to do was like the most basic of basics, and I was like, this is not. This is not like I can do this. So then I started doing it.
That's how Dario became an aficionado when it came to Google AdWords.
No, for SEO, but AdWords, SEO, I still don't know what the hell I'm doing with it, but it's working. Like our ads are on they run on the first, second page and everything. Not putting too much money into it though. I think we just put like $500 a month, something like that. I think we run $10 a day, maybe 10, 15. But
yeah. And so you're pretty well versed in SEO. Is that correct? Like, how can I up my SEO game? I mean, I know I need more backlinks, but like, if you had 3 things I should go and do right now to increase my page ranking, like, what do you think? What do you got for me?
Number 1, I'm not an expert. Number 2, I would just say just do the basic checklist on what's that website I used? Something.io. It was I think it was backlink.io, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just backlink. No, it's not backlink.io. Don't go to that site. I don't know what that is. But
Dario might get a virus.
Yeah, when a page loads slow, you're like, oh God, what did I do?
You're like, no. That's them cracking into your computer at that point.
No, listen, I'm not an expert when it comes to SEO. I've learned the basics, I think. But I think when it comes to SEO, you just got to do like the basic technical stuff.
The biggest is consistency. I remember once we started being more consistent, that's when more results.
You got to explain what that is, Kyrill. What does consistency mean in SEO?
Well, I'll leave it to you because remember, you're the expert.
I was getting to that before you rudely interrupted me. So just have like the basic technicals that, I'm not going to go into each one of those. You should research that yourself. And then number 2 is like, create high quality pages through your blog, get some backlinks that way. And number 3, don't do shady shit because you'll get caught eventually. Like there's this one website, if you search video production Toronto, they just somehow appeared on the first page and it was a total scam website. Like they were a video production company with no work, right? It was just a ton of keywords on their page. And it
was all keywords on every page.
It took Google like over a year. It took Google like over a year before they hit them. And then now they're like page 4 or something. They're slowly disappearing. But yeah, I don't know. For SEO, it's just be consistently posting. Make sure the technical side is correct. Like, you're using, for example, for technicals, like you're using the correct headings, like, H1 for titles, and then you do, H2 for subsequent ones. Like you got to like index your website like the way a library organizes its book collection, right? So, yeah. I don't know. What are you doing so far for all that stuff?
Really just on the website trying to have keywords. It's like you guys said about that video production company that you said was a scam. It's like I went on this one website. It was a web design Toronto company. And I just saw throughout the entire page. It was like, we provide web design services in Toronto. Like every single paragraph, every single piece of text was purposed for SEO. So I went into my own website and like tried to put a little bit of that sauce in there. We provide video production services to businesses in St.Johns, like just trying to clean up the website and the copy on there. What you just said about like H1 and H2 and headings and such, I definitely need to go in and have a look at that because I don't think I'm doing that properly within WordPress.
You also can't overdo it though, because, and I don't mean with the headings, I mean in terms of like, populating your site with the right keywords and everything, because at the end of the day, user experience is what matters. Because I've seen some websites where they just throw in like a ton of words and you look at it and you're like, you made this website for Google, but if I was a user, I would just tap out. So like, great, you're ranking high, but like how many leads are you actually getting? Because your website is a disaster, right?
I totally agree. And on that website that I mentioned where it was just nothing but keywords, it was just the writing was just completely garbage because it was so focused on keywords. And so that's a really great point you make there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to start abusing all these AI tools, and I think that's great because it's going to screw up their rankings because Google's already made it clear that they hate that stuff. So some good opportunity there.
Unless they switch over to Bing and then really use all those AI tools.
No, they limited it on Bing. Like you can only use it like a couple times a day and everything. So it's not, and
That's
all
good.
these tools are so broken anyways, like in the sense that 1 out of 10 times they'll give you something decent. And then you look at it, you're like, I could have done this myself in half the time, that you spent trying to figure it out.
Throw in like a rephrase this for me, and you have to input that function like 10 different times before it gets you something even half usable. And then even then you still have to rework it to what actually works better. I mean, who knows where it can actually help in certain situations, but I think it's still very niched out. Like it's not going to be the solution to everyone's problems. It can only be as like an aider in certain. I don't know if aider is a word,
That's
really,
not
but
a word, man.
It'll just simply be a help tool.
An aid.
An aid. It'll be an aid.
You know what bugs me is that on LinkedIn, on my feed, it's like everyone talking about it. And it's like the most like annoying posts I've ever seen in my life, like one after the other. Like, ugh, it makes me like cringe every time I see it. LinkedIn is turning into Facebook. It's awful. I can't stand it.
You know what? Yes, it's funny because I have noticed that it's almost like as if everyone who grew up on Facebook then moved to LinkedIn. That's what happened.
And it's got this like
they got into their careers.
It's got this culty vibe because it's like everyone has like this smile almost. Like you could the posts read like they're smiling, like I'm a hostage, but please everything's fine type of vibe to it.
Yeah. I mean, they say that Instagram, people are putting on a filter and showing their best life, and then on LinkedIn I find it's like a corporate filter. It's like you're saying.
That's exactly it.
It's the I lost my job but everything is fine approach. It's unfortunate, right? Because like in those situations, if that happens, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Be negative? Like you got to try to be positive and get yourself out there. So it's like you understand why.
That's for that stuff. That's for that stuff. But it's like most of the stuff is like, oh my God. Like I always look at these posts and I go, how does this guy have this much time in his life? Because you'll see it's like
where they're only on LinkedIn.
You'll see like a post, and it says to see more, and you click see more just out of curiosity, and it's like a blog post. You're like, how did you have this much time? And what are you doing? I'm like, this is why work from home doesn't work for everyone. You should be at work. Like, how do you have this much time to write like 1,500 word essay?
It's like 10 reasons why business is the way business is.
Oh my God, man.
And it literally lists them out. Not just list them out, definition for each one. And then literally, like you said, like it's like a novel or a book. It's like you should have actually written a book at this point.
I think the thing is this fake positive reinforcement people get, because it's like, oh, my post got like 12 likes. It's like, buddy, like I'm on LinkedIn. I'm just liking random stuff as I go down.
We're now getting into the social media craze, because this is also the same thing can be said about Instagram, Facebook, and other content creation. It's that's just with the business blanket over it, or like the corporate side of things, right? Is your community very active on LinkedIn in St. Johns, did you find, or was it just pretty much like mostly Facebook and Instagram like we were talking about?
I definitely think that, businesses are active and individuals within those companies are pretty active on LinkedIn. Like absolutely. And probably, I don't think they're getting on Facebook and posting too much about, their work-life balance and how working from home has impacted them and such. But yeah, I would definitely say that LinkedIn people here locally are certainly active on that platform. And there's definitely some people in the city who have really built a brand on LinkedIn and through posting and creating content on there.
Oh, so then why don't you start incorporating maybe like some of those promotional aspects on LinkedIn? I mean, aside obviously from how expensive it could be.
What about just organic? You could do organic too, no?
I think that's absolutely something I need to focus on, as well as, just blocking out time every 2 hours every Thursday morning, which clearly I have started to do. And now, writing content, dedicating 2 hours every week, protected time to creating content. Because I think we also have a hack where we have a lot of video content, and that on LinkedIn usually performs pretty well. LinkedIn actually wants you to post more video stuff because a lot of it, like you said, is 1,500 page, 1,500 word looking blog posts. I think video content, they're going to push that organically pretty far on LinkedIn. So I totally agree. Got to make it happen.
The great thing about our businesses is that we have the tools to create the most effective type of content. The tricky part is actually creating that content.
Yeah, because a lot of the time we're thinking about what kind of content to create for our clients and their businesses, and we've said this before on the show, is that you got to treat your own business as your own client. Try to look at it objectively from an outside perspective. It's like, what is missing from this business? Like, what is missing from Altitude Media? Okay, clearly Altitude Media, they have this, and this. But they're missing out on blog posts, and you've remedied that. For example, now you've blocked out 2 hours every week where you're just creating blog content that you're posting there. Oh, maybe now I need to put like an hour a week where I just start thinking of like LinkedIn video ideas that I'm going to create for Altitude Media. Like you gotta start thinking more about how to work on the business, essentially.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mention that because I'm a video marketing company and my revenue is going like this. Well, why don't I just do video marketing, right? And like that's kind of something, that's how I ended up landing on doing this, is exactly having that kind of outside perspective on your business and realizing if I'm saying we do video marketing, well, we should practice what we preach. And that's kind of what the approach I took on this whole thing.
Can you go into a bit about the video marketing side? Because it's not often we meet another company that does focus on that. It's very rare, actually. So tell us a bit about that.
At least like from a video background, like going from video production to video marketing is
and is it like a
common
side thing that you're offering, or is it like it's the bulk of your business?
The main
video marketing.
Well, first I would want to ask, I'll give my answer first. What do you guys define as the difference between video production and video marketing? For me, video production is someone's coming to me, maybe it's an agency or it's a business or a marketing team, and they're saying, we want to execute on this 2-minute video, and then you make it happen. And then you deliver on their vision. Video marketing, I would say, is more so working with the client through a discovery process to figure out what sort of videos should we create that are going to accomplish your marketing objectives, right? Like, how would you guys interpret that?
Well, but the second one is still video production, isn't it? That's what we do.
It is video production, but there's more strategy involved. That's kind of how I would interpret it, right? Whereas video production, I'm thinking that is just someone's coming to me and they're giving me the treatment on the video. They're giving me the direction. That's kind of how I would think of it. Video marketing, we're coming up with a solution for the client on how they can accomplish the marketing objectives. Okay, so what would your answer be?
Because video marketing to me is I'm creating the video for you and I'm helping you market the video. That's
actually put it out
there.
Yeah.
That's how you would think that.
The full distribution process is essentially, because a lot of the time, I think what you're kind of like trying to separate it as, it's almost as if you're kind of being the marketing department for that company in a way with the video content. But at the end of the day, there still needs to be distribution and execution upon it, right? And that is how we see video marketing on our end. Because a lot of the time, even marketing departments, they know they need to do video, but they don't know always what they need to necessarily do, right? So I guess you've kind of like basically, in our eyes, separated video production into two types of clients, essentially, that you're servicing. Clients that know what they want and clients that don't know what they want. But that's still video production.
Or in his case, though, it's more so like if we were dealing with clients like that, when we have ad or marketing agencies, it's more so like the first thing you described. And then if we have direct to client, direct to business, it's more so the second type you described, because that's what we deal with a lot.
So you guys are executing on the rollout of the content that you guys are creating?
No. So we don't do the actual distribution side of things. That's video marketing, right? But we, like most of our business, I would say like 99% at this point, it's a direct to client, and almost always they're coming to us with they need with an initiative, and then we help them craft the right video based on their initiatives, right? So we are in there at, farm to table, ideation all the way to completion. But what they do with that video at the end of the day is always up to them, right?
Cool. And so I would like to learn about, what is your guys' discovery process when it comes to that ideation, working with the client to figure out what the requirements are? What does that look like for you guys?
So, we have like a whole process in terms of, it starts actually from the discovery call. We ask a ton of questions related to what the purpose of the video is going to be, what the intention is behind it, the key messages, how they're going to, all the way to like how they're going to distribute it. And then as we go through like our sales funnel, we're pitching them on the right type of video that they want or what they want at the end of the day. And then going into our pre-production process, we have like a good idea of what the video is going to be. So from there, it's just a matter of getting into the fine details, right? So then at that point, we go through our entire pre-production process to figure out the whole roadmap for everything. So I guess it's a two-step process. It's first during the sales process, we're figuring out exactly what the client needs because we got to pitch on the project, right? And then going into it is when we really like flesh it out. So when we get into pre-production, we're fleshing it out. So it's two-step for us.
And let's kind of unpack that sales process. Is that just discovery and pitch, or is there more in between that, or does it vary on the
there
project?
Might be. So like during our discovery call, it's usually about like 30 to 40 minutes for us. And that's where like we've developed like a series of questions where we just go through each one, and that gives us enough detail. Then I'll do a follow-up with them and then ask them for more information, or if they haven't provided that during the call, ask them to send it to me via email. And then Kyrill and I start to unpack everything. And then if we have further questions, we just do email communications for that. And then we just do our final call with them where we just pitch for we do our RFP essentially, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like doing the work of the RFP essentially beforehand, because you mentioned like you're essentially looking for companies also that know exactly what they want, what they're aiming to do. That's essentially what an RFP is, right? It's like, these are our goals. This is the content we need to make. How can you execute it, right? That's what they're asking for. So this is when you're dealing with new leads, you're trying to figure out what those things are initially, and you kind of create your own RFP in a way based on what you've talked about.
You nailed it on the head. It's exactly that. It's basically getting all the information that would need to be on an RFP. And then we basically just answer that RFP. So once you go into the project with that, you already know what the project is going to be. Like, especially if they've agreed with what you want to do. And then obviously for the pre-production process, like it's a bit more of going into the nitty gritty on whatever you just pitched. And then for that, you should have your own process as well, right? I think for everyone, it's going to kind of be similar. Like for us, we just sat down last week and like went through it in a very detailed manner. And that's actually how we realized that we were undercharging for pre-production, especially considering the amount of time that we need to spend on it. Because we did a breakdown. We're like, wow, we got to spend at least 15 hours on pre-production. So that's when we're like, you know what? Like, we're not charging enough for that. So even with something like a pre-production process contains like 3 client meetings as part of it, Kyrill and I were doing way more than that. Sometimes it's go over an hour, and we've even defined that, like, there's 3 meetings, they're an hour each. Anything after that needs to be done via email communications, because you can not do that when you're doing a project here or there. But when you have a lot of projects, you just don't have the time. And like, if you do like 5 meetings back, and a lot of them can just be done through your email, like it does delay things, right? You should be focusing on other things too, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, if the bulk of your projects are very similar, you should have a pretty good streamlined process about how you should go about it. We're not talking about the situations where it's going to be like, say, a 500K project or a 100K project where there's a lot of different elements that need to be checked off before you even get into certain parts of the process. And even sometimes pre-production can go well into the production process as well. For example, you have a few shoot days, prior, and then like you have to schedule the next few shoot days like 2-3 weeks later. You're still kind of doing a little bit of pre-production in between based on like the other shoots that you've done. Those are very unique situations that we're not kind of like touching upon. We're talking about like, what is your most basic starting point to execute a video project. Try to figure that out and have that in mind when you're pitching and selling to these new leads, because then if you don't have that in mind, you don't know how much work is going to go into it. And then, as Dario mentioned, you might accidentally undercharge. And that actually even helps you figure out at the end of the day what your new baseline is. If you figure out like, hey, if it takes this much time to do this video project, then I need to be charging a little bit more, to make it worth my time.
Yeah, but you'll figure that stuff out as you're going through it, because you should be able to, like, those distribution graphs where it's like it's like a mountain. You should be able to tell, okay, a bulk of my clients fit into this category, right? So from there, then you can just standardize things. But
so what are like some other like what is like your kind of like sales process aside from like that form? Like you feel like it might be too long or too short or something that you might need to fix based on it?
So right now it's very similar to what you guys are doing. First, we do just a 15-minute discovery to vet them, and even before that, we'll look at that Calendly form.
How do you vet them? How do you vet? What's your vetting process?
Well, on that questionnaire is budget and also their business. So we'll kind of do a deep dive into that and look into there.
But you have 15 minutes, right? So when you're doing that 15-minute call, what are you doing to vet them?
Yeah, so I'm just answering. I'm just reading through a script and learning about their business, learning about what their objectives are, what are they selling, what would the outcome of the project need to be for them to be super satisfied. And really, I'm just looking for red flags. You know what I mean? People saying, I don't know if, we have the budget for this, and, the typical stuff, right? And then I'll hop off the call, and, if I know at the end of the call it's definitely going to be a fit, I'll say, hey, let's book in another time to chat on this, and then do further discovery or come to them with a pitch. Like yesterday I did a pitch on a second call, and that went pretty well. But that's because on that first call it went so well, and I thought they were really warm and ready. And so I went ahead with that. And so, like you said, I think it's pretty similar for a lot of video production companies to do that type of discovery process.
So you essentially it's more so like a pure vetting call. You don't go into any deep dive details until you've done this essential call, right?
No, I would say it's not just a vetting call. I am trying to learn what would they like to accomplish with the project, for sure. And as I'm doing that, like I said, I'm just looking for red flags that they might have.
I kind of do like my intro call is kind of mixed in with the follow-up one as well. So I try to just nail everything nail everything at once. Like I don't want to have too many calls, elongate the process. Because I used to do that. It's like, okay, quick call, let's just blah, blah, blah. But I figured, actually one thing that helped me was that I just tell them, do you get them on a phone call or do you get them on a video call?
It's a video call. So they book through Calendly and it's a Zoom.
Okay, yeah.
Zoom link there.
I noticed the ones that don't want to do the video call is also a good way to vet them out. Because it's like,
yeah,
could be a red flag. Yeah, it's like, what do you have to hide?
But again, they're not even going to get past booking on Calendly, right?
You have the Calendly. Interesting, yeah, that's good.
And same thing with the 4 to 6K in the form. They're going to hit that and go, okay, never mind, right?
I have people lie to me all the time on that. Do you have the same?
Well, I have everyone that comes through. It's the bottom tier, right? It's the 4 to 6K, not this 6 to 10 or 10 to 15 plus, right? No one's hitting those. They're just hitting the base minimum.
I still have them. It's like, oh, we actually have less than that. It's like, but why did you get in touch?
They want to sweet talk us. That's what it is.
My first question is I always go okay, let me just quickly go through your details. So you said you need da. Oh, wait, you selected this option, this for the budget. I just want to confirm that's correct, right? On Friday, I had my first. I just told them oh yeah, no, we can't do that, and it was amazing. Just telling them no right off the bat. They wanted it so much.
Tell me about that. Like telling a client on a call to be like, hey, we're not a fit. Like, how do you approach that?
Well, I looked at the number and I was like, oh yeah, no, we can't do that at all. And then they're like, oh, but blah blah. I was like, sorry.
Do you refer them?
No, I don't refer them. I don't have time. That's time out of your day, right? And if it's if you didn't read the thing, that's not on me.
That's also someone you don't want to refer to people in your network that you respect and appreciate working with and collaborating with.
Do you want me to send you a lead that has no budget?
That has no potential.
And no budget is tough. But I know some local videographers that are on the come up that I do send business to, but not like super crap leads. That's a good point.
Videographers is different because like a lot of the times like they're not handling ideation to completion, right? Like they're more like hired guns in a way. So it's like I know a ton of, we know a ton of like videographers we could send these leads to, but it's like we're also dealing with a certain budget level where it's like they would need to do kind of what we're doing just on a much smaller scale. Like the types of leads that we're getting in now, like the one that I was dealing with 2 years ago, I would have gladly taken them on, right? But it's like you still need to know how to run the whole pre-production process, and a lot of those guys, it's like they don't really. I mean, they might do some of that work for smaller clients, but it's like it's not really their forte in a way. But yeah, it was amazing just telling that lady no, and it's like she wanted me to like stay on the call, and like she was like, oh, but like maybe you could tell. It was funny. She's like, oh, but maybe you could tell me a bit about yourself. I'm like, there's no point. Like we're not a good fit, right? Like I was like, you need at least this to talk to me. I was like, if you want, go talk to your manager. If you could, or your superior, if you can get more budget, then we can schedule another call. But and then she still wanted to pry and ask like questions about like, how we do it. And I was like, look, how I do it is for my type of clients. Like how a person with your budget range does is completely different. Like the way Balenciaga makes their clothing is different from the way Gap makes their clothing, right? You could learn the process, but if you don't have that kind of money, you still can't buy Balenciaga, and like Gap is not going to be of the same quality. It's
Yeah, and like just one thing to note and to stress is that this isn't done with an intention to be rude or anything like that, and it's just a matter of like it's just how business is run, right? Like everyone has only so much time that they could spend within their business on certain things. It's not a matter of being rude. It's just a matter of like saving people their time, because this is actually something that is a service to these leads as well, is that we're not wasting. Not only are we not going to waste our time, but we're also not going to waste their time.
That's what I told her.
So that gives them
That's
more
what I told her. I was like,
Exactly.
listen, I think
Exactly.
you need, I don't want to waste your time and my time as well, but I think you need to spend this time right now, start finding a company that can match your budget, right?
Exactly. It's you don't want to do a disservice to anyone that you work with or could potentially work with, right? And it's a matter of like putting your name out there in a positive light in different ways too.
Speaking of Balenciaga, do you guys have insurance and media coverage insurance? This is something I just learned recently that I definitely need to get. I had insurance for drone doing aerials, and recently learned I need media insurance. Do you guys?
How does that relate to Balenciaga though?
Yeah, that's the
connection.
So Balenciaga just recently has been in a firestorm online
With
over
the
a
pedo
recent
stuff,
campaign
right?
that they did,
Yeah.
right? And it was, I think now there's a bunch of lawsuits going on, and the lawsuits are towards the agency that actually created that campaign, right? So that's kind of
Even though they signed off on it, right? Because they have
Exactly,
to sign
right.
off on
So that'll be in the courts, right?
See, I think, okay, well, firstly, one, I always think at the end of the day is the company that puts it out there. If they're the ones that chose to put it out there, it's up on them. I can see why, though, that they would probably be trying to blame the agencies, because they're saying, I was like, oh, we trusted them as experts and this and this and this. That might be one thing. But I think what saves us as video production companies is that we're just the tool. Maybe it was the marketing or the ad agency specifically that developed the strategy that might be more.
Them suing us is like someone suing the graphic designer.
Yeah, or suing the camera company. It's like, you made it with these cameras.
Wait, but hold on. Let's go into the insurance part. So, because we have, what do we have? We have liability insurance.
Yeah, we have liability for like. The liability insurance that we have basically covers like, in case there's any accidents on set or anything like that, that is usually required by any video production company. If you don't have insurance, go and get yourself.
Hey, Kyrill, do we need to get
listening.
one specifically for each shoot, each time we shoot, or it's just for in general for the year, right?
No, not necessarily. I think I think those are the situations where you have to get it if you don't have.
Oh, I see. But we have it, so we don't need to. I see. Okay.
Exactly. Like some like if you wanted to book a professional studio to rent, they have to see that you have a certain kind of they have to see that you have insurance set. Like maybe you could probably generate like might not be a bad idea to look into this, but just to see if we need to generate some kind of a like report with our insurance company for those specific shoots. It's just literally one document that would just kind of gets printed out.
Because you've been handling the studio stuff for us. So like if we have to shoot at a studio, we got to get a special form from our insurance guy.
Yeah,
I thought it's
a specific
I thought
one.
it was just like, why do we have to get it for a studio? Like if we already have it, no?
I think it's because you're dealing with something a lot more major in a studio setting, because with insurance, you're basically kind of like covering their asses as well. I think that's why we have to do it with studios, is that you're covering their asses so that they know that we have it. But it's so that everyone is covered on all fronts. Whereas like if we're going to like a client's company to film things certain there, like we need to have our own no matter what, right? So there's that. I mean, it's always good to double check things.
Yeah, I think I might call up our guy and just ask him.
I don't know I don't think he may know on this. I think we have to check on more on the production side of things. Like Liam, like what is your experience on that front? Like if you've had to deal with that.
Well, so yeah, I got the liability insurance and the drone insurance, but just recently now the insurance company is after me to get this kind of like media protection around the content that we create. I don't fully understand it. It might be like some kind of scam. I got a meeting.
Upsell.
Yeah, right. It's like because I'm creating content and insurance around that, not just liability.
I'll tell you why, because you tell them you do video marketing. That's why.
You could be right.
Maybe that might be it. Yeah, because again, you're not distributing the content, right? You're not doing the whole process there.
Yeah, well, we're moving more into that this year. Like yesterday's pitch I did, we actually would be executing on the media buying. So maybe that.
Also, you are starting to shift into like actual marketing of the videos.
Absolutely. So
okay.
So now I'm looking to basically create content and marketing assets for the entire customer funnel, right from an awareness ad to a landing page, and also the media buying in between, and just as a way to kind of increase our service offering and really revenue and value we can provide here in the market.
Interesting. Yeah, we've had this conversation, prior to actually pre-pandemic, believe it or not. We were debating getting into the video marketing side of things, but we just decided we don't have that expertise, so it doesn't make sense for us. And we might as well become better at one side of things, and also would have been a completely different animal for us to tackle.
It's a beast. Yeah,
I think it's the key is like to know where you want to kind of excel in and where you want to focus your attention, because the second you start introducing new services into your business model, there's a whole new set of things that you have to consider, and they could affect every other part of the entire process. Like for example, if you wanted to do video marketing, or like say on the video production side, the color grading process is a completely different process that has to be incorporated into your plan. So then when you're going through pre-production, you have to have now another section that's specifically where you have to go to a coloring house, how you will essentially get the footage to them, how you will get different drafts, things to present to clients, and things like that, right? If you didn't have color grading in your whole production process. So every service that you incorporate into your business can affect every other aspect of the business, specifically in your whole process. And then you have to then consider like, how will that affect essentially that very first interaction with the client in that sales call? It's like, okay, instead of presenting a 9-step process, now you have to present a 10-step process. So
I'll give a better example, because for like colorists, like that's if you have to go to a colorist, you're dealing with a bigger budget, so it's factored in.
That's what I mean. Like I'm just using an example of a process alterer.
But marketing something like that, it's equivalent to what we're doing with the photography. So like with us, we started offering photography services, right? Now, it's not us actually doing the photos or us knowing photographers. We partnered up with a photography agency. So basically what we do is we just use them for that, right? So we get it at a good rate. They get the business, and then they handle that. We're only involved in a little bit of the communications with the back and forth. Let them know, okay, let's book a photographer. Who's a photographer? Great. Okay, I'll get him involved with the contact. They go shoot it. They send us the link to the photos, and then we forward that to the client. That's it. That's the extent of our involvement with that, right?
And vice versa, we also help them on the video production side if they need it for their business, right? So it's a matter of like finding key partnerships that can help you better serve your clients and introducing services that are actually going to help your clients. Because sometimes some companies they push services onto clients that they don't really need, and sometimes it's better to offer services that will essentially keep you in mind as the problem solver for your clients, right? When clients come to you, they basically want you to solve their problems and challenges, right? So for example, if we do, for this one client of ours, we do a lot of video production, and occasionally they have events where they might need a photographer. So rather than them going through the tenuous process of trying to vet and find people that they don't know, see how they work together, if it's a good fit or not, they could just come to us and say like, hey, do you have any photographers that would be available on this day that are trustworthy and reliable? And if they can execute it with a delivery date of this, this, and this, and then say, yep, we have exactly this person you need. Let us know these details, and then we'll just coordinate it for them. And we just simply connect. They go shoot it, provide us with the images, and then we provide it to the clients. That way, it's like a one-stop shop almost in a way. So
could be a good idea for you to maybe, I don't know how far you are into the marketing process, but could be a good idea for you to also see who in the local business side of things can help you out with that, because then you can just focus strictly on the production side, or if you want to do both, that's up to you entirely. But just because we've noticed, like, when we try to divert our attention too much, one thing always suffers, and it's hard enough to run a video production company as a whole, right?
Yeah, I totally agree, especially when it comes to the media buying side and, running Facebook ads and such. I'm pretty well versed in that, but I need to find someone who really knows their stuff and really can deliver. So I totally agree. And it's potentially, finding those strategic partnerships with another agency, or maybe, hopefully I could find an individual, to help manage the cost there. But I agree on that. Are there any other strategic partnerships that you guys have, or, that you're looking into? And what does that kind of look like? Is that just a conversation to say, okay, guys, handshake deal, or is it more intricate than that?
We only have that one going on right now, and luckily enough, they also do offer more marketing services. So, for example, we had a lead come in, and they want to do like a website redesign. But part of that was new video content for their website, right? So I pitched them on our videos, and I told them also we have a partner that can help them with the website redesign. So I connected them with them, right? In terms of like agreements on paper, it's still very early on. So we don't have anything on paper, but we have had conversations where we've discussed like how it could potentially morph into something bigger going forward. So we're both parties are aware of where it can, that it's meant to grow, right?
Yeah. I think it's important to see and trial and error it, essentially, because sometimes when people try to do partnerships or things like that right out of the gate, each party might have a different idea of what it could be, and sometimes it could turn into something else that you wouldn't expect. And what you might say, like, hey, this is how we want to basically handle client referrals or things like that, it might not work within like 3 to 6 months after that, right? So it's good to kind of test it out, feel it out, see how everyone works together, and then if it gets to the point where there's like a consistency, like back and forth, like every day or every other day, now that's when it's time to talk about it.
It does come down to money. So like if the money starts getting to the point where it's like, okay, we really need to talk about this, then we'll obviously do it. But we're on the same page on that. In terms of other partnerships, I think for now, no. I mean, Kyrill, one good thing would be maybe with an animation company, something like that. That would be a great idea.
Potentially.
Yeah, just to have that service, because animation is one of those things where it's like, we don't do too much of it, but it does come up here and there. And then when it does come up, it's like, I don't know, like that's the only thing I would maybe add to our repertoire, to be honest with you, like a strong animation partner. because we do use freelancers, but it's always a freelancer at the end of the day. Their quality is always going to vary compared to who you use.
It's more so availability is the challenge with freelancers. Yeah. Good animators that deliver and are reliable and trustworthy are very difficult to find. I find more difficult to find than, like, say, editors or cinematographers, because it's a lot of, it's not like front facing as well as much. Like, you're basically, they're working from home, like cinematographers or other crew members. You see them on set, so you're able to understand how they work a little bit better in person. Whereas it's a little bit harder to find and take the chance on, like, say, editors or.
But also because you're not an animator, right? You're a cinematographer,
right.
So you can tell. Like it's like a dog recognizes another dog type of thing, situation, right? Like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With an animator, it's like, I hope this guy's not, like, just selling me on this. Like, I hope he knows what he's selling me on.
Is there Liam a certain partnership that you have, like, at the top of your priority list that you might want to explore more of, or are you still kind of trying to figure that out?
Yeah, I definitely think I'd like to. I mean, we've worked with marketing agencies here in town who don't have in-house video, but I think developing a strategic partnership with a big agency here in town, to be their go-to for video production could be pretty strong for us.
What we noticed with that, you'd have to go with a big one, but then the big ones always have a lot of options, so they kind of can shop around easily. Because we've noticed if you deal with a small to medium-sized marketing agency, their clients, like, at least for the type of video production work we do, because even with our partner over there, if they're sending us video work, they know that it has to be video work of a certain budget, because a lot of the times when you're dealing with small to medium-sized clients and you're a marketing agency, like, the video budget is smaller, right? Like, we could dry out their, like, 2 months maybe of their marketing budget with just one video, right? But that's just because of the type of video production company we are. Actually, most of us are kind of like that, right? Like, I mean, for us now, our starting point is 10K. Before that, it was like 5. Now it's 7.5. Like, most people fall into the 5 to 10K range, right? But a lot of these small businesses, like, if you tell them, like I don't know, if you're dealing with a restaurant, you tell them, yeah, we can, your marketing agency, it's like, yeah, we'll shoot 1 day's worth. We'll come in for a day. We'll shoot one video. You'll get one video asset out of it, and it'll cost 10,000. They'll go like, what the hell? We can't do that. That's a lot on a monthly basis. It won't work, right? So I think the only challenge with that is going to be, like, trying to find a partnership where it's like, I can't do, like, the same quality of work that I do for one type of project. In terms of, like, basically, they'll need a lot of work. They'll need more so like a videographer, I've noticed, compared to, like, an actual company. Because a company, like, our overhead is high. Like, we bring on a lot of people. Like, the cost of a video is just too high for them, I find, at least.
Think of it like this: is because they're going to these other companies with a certain kind of idea in mind of, like, overall content that they need. They need many services, right? They're not going in there specifically with video as the main service that they need. They need to create their website. They need to create promotional photos. They need to create banner ads, like a whole wide range of things. So in their mind, they're basically, say they have like 50, like say 10K that they need to distribute amongst all these platforms. Some companies can do it. Obviously, some parts are more so focused on, and then other parts there might be a little bit if there's budget left. So think of it like if they've spent the 8,000 to get their whole media brand image set up right from the get-go, they only have 2K left over, and then they're like, oh, let's do a video. How much is it going to cost? 10K?
It only works if you have.
They don't.
It only works for them if they have like an in-house guy, because then it's already salaried, so they can just send him out whenever.
But again, they're also having the challenge of like how much time is that person is going to be spending on this one particular client, right? It all goes back down to, even if they're in-house, their hours are still billable. They're in terms of like,
I know, but Kyrill, but let's say you're a marketing agency and you have an in-house videographer. If you send them out for 1-2 hours on Tuesday, it's fine, right? Because that guy's probably going to edit it as well. Versus if we send out someone, if you send out a cinematographer, it's at least you got to book them for the whole day, even if it's 2 hours. Like that guy's not going to take it on. So it's like boom, right away you're 1,500 in the hole. That's not including the project management fee, just like coordinating stuff, And that's just sending the guy out. It's like, just capture whatever. If you want a producer, that boom, another 1,500 right away. You're 3K in the hole, just footage capture. Even if it's like 2 hours.
I mean, I guess it's like basically it's the different kind of experience. You know, like a lot of people lump in cinematographer and videographer together as the same role, but maybe those are two completely separate roles and distinctions that people have to define in our industry. But it always keeps changing. Sorry, Liam, did that answer the question? Like Dario and I noticed that this episode, like you've asked a question and Dario and I just kind of went off.
He's not joining the conversation. We're like waiting for Liam to join in and he's not joining in.
As he just mentioned, like it's he's just kind of taking in what we're talking about. Hopefully it's something useful there, right?
I mean, absolutely. And I totally agree. You know, you need to have a good communication and a good standard set with that agency. You know, to say, hey, listen, like, don't come to us with a $2,000 budget, right? You need to kind of establish those terms and set those expectations.
Yeah, but then again, if you are dealing with the ones that would deal with those budgets, now you are competing with other people in your pool, right? But you never know. Could work out. But I don't like relying on agencies because I feel like, I mean, they have no loyalty. They have no loyalty to you, right? I mean, why should they, right? So it's like you could be their go-to guy for like 6 months, and then someone under charges and delivers the same quality, boom, you're gone, right?
Absolutely, totally agree. I want to ask you guys: have you guys done any mentorship or coaching programs to kind of level up your guys' ability? Because I recently started partaking in those over the past couple months. They're pretty expensive, but I found that was a way to really accelerate my learning and ability to kind of organize myself in my operations in my business.
Where do you find those?
Like a mentor? Do you mean like finding a mentor for yourself?
No, I think he's talking about paid consulting.
It's paid coaching. So it's like a paid community and paid mentorship. And so I'm in two of those. They're both based out of the United States. And so basically I meet with a mentor every week. And I also have access to all their learnings. And that has been kind of like monumental for me over the past just these couple months. I mean, I used to like email proposals, right? Like, and now I've since, leveled up my ability with like the whole discovery process. I wasn't even familiar with that prior to this coaching. So, what have you guys done? If you haven't kind of dived into any programs, what have you guys done to kind of level up your ability? I mean, you guys are very competent in your business acumen and in your video production.
He thinks we're competent.
Business.
What's funny is that when I think one of the biggest things is actually this show was a big changing factor for us, because when we started it during the pandemic because there was no work coming in, so we needed something to kind of give us a little bit of like shall we say like a purpose on a weekly basis, like let's do an episode and interview people. And it was kind of like a good way to give everyone a chance to kind of like, connect and talk. And then we actually like through doing these episodes, we kind of started learning a lot more about not only what other people were doing, but also learning about what we weren't doing. It's like, oh, Dario, like I think we need to start thinking about this, and this, or like we haven't thought of this. And then that was kind of like probably the biggest thing that we've done is essentially just doing this show and just connecting with more and more creatives.
And within here, I see you guys are going back and forth like, hey, we should look into that. We should try that. I think that's super cool. And, you guys have been super consistent. This is episode 30, is it?
40.
40.
40.
Yeah,
wow.
40 now. Yeah.
And how have you guys been able to maintain that? I mean, this is a lot of work to book all these guests in and then produce it and put it up there. What has been your process in keeping it going?
Well, the thing that's helped a lot is that we started hiring editors for this. So that's saved up a lot of time. So basically right now the breakup is I'll be the one that does the outreach, books in the guests, and then Kyrill deals with the editor, and then Kyrill pumps it out on the social channels. That's been the breakdown. We've kind of just split it up like that, and it's just worked.
It's easier to kind of just separate, divvying up the role so that it's like, okay, one has done that, now I can get this, and then like handle the creative and like put together the actual product. This way, it just becomes a lot more of a well-oiled machine. Like, I mean, before we did it's not like we did 40 episodes in a row. So just to keep that in mind, we basically had
it started like at the end of like we did it how it worked before. Yeah, like 2020 we did a run of like 15 episodes or so, and then 2021 we're like we got a lot to focus on, we don't have time for that, and then we took a year break, which we shouldn't have. I should have kept it going because we learned a lot from this. So we restarted in 2022. Yeah. And then just slowly, we did a ton of them in March, and then we just released them little by little. And then now we're just doing more weekly ones because we realized that, you know, we're growing a lot on a week by week basis. So every week we're learning something new.
And it's good to have your own kind of piece of content that you could actually focus on. You know, like there's a lot of things that you can learn doing something like this, you know, that can work in other aspects of your business. You know, like sometimes you might, for example, find a bug in one of your post-production softwares that you wouldn't have noticed otherwise if you were just handing projects to editors. Because I discovered one last week, and and it was like frustrating me all week until I figured out what it was. And then now it's like, okay, perfect. Now we have a fix, and now we can apply it to everything else that we do. So this was actually an issue with the way Adobe Premiere exports its color, and I was noticing slowly over the last few weeks, it's like there's something going on with the export, and I couldn't put my finger on it exactly. And sometimes it happens with different updates, and then it just kind of hit me last week, and I was looking at like the preview bar of Adobe Premiere. It's like what the color and the look was. And then I looked at the export and I'm like, there's something different here. And then I basically put them side by side and I'm like, why is it exporting with colors completely washed out and uncontrasted versus what is on the preview bar? And I'm like, this is probably where we've had issues in the past with certain projects where we were thinking to ourselves, oh, the color was a little bit dull in that project. I wonder what was going on. And I think this was essentially the problem. And essentially, this was a problem that dates back to like 2016, 2017 even. And a lot of people deal with this issue because whatever is being exported with Premiere is set up for essentially a color space that is meant for broadcast. And that color space is completely different to what it is on the players and the media players on MacBooks, on PCs, but ultimately YouTube. Like I read that some people were saying essentially that it was like, oh, it's just that media player that you're using. You got to use VLC and then the problem is fine, which is okay. That could be fine. But most people who are using Mac A are going to be using the standard media player. So you want it to be optimized for that. That's one. But ultimately, that same issue was appearing on YouTube. And that's what was frustrating me all last week. I delayed an entire episode release because I needed to figure out.
I was wondering why that episode didn't release.
Yeah, that's why it's being released.
So how do you fix it? What's the fix?
I'm so familiar with this issue. Like I've had this as well. Too, right? I think everyone has it, just only a few people like ourselves have noticed it. And so, and the funny thing is that you get this LUT that you need to apply to the Premiere. You get it from Adobe's website.
But they deleted it.
Oh,
they deleted it. So that's the crazy thing. And I that's what frustrated me because a lot of the resources that I was finding were saying, oh, you just have to download this LUT from Adobe. And then it just kept giving me error messages to the link. Maybe the link was just broken and they just put it on a different part of the website. But I finally found another YouTuber. His name, I believe, is Sir Matt Johnson.
Oh, the guy with the beard, right? The wedding guy.
Yeah, exactly. Like he does a lot of really good wedding tutorial content. And he basically had a fix for this. And what he did cheekishly in his video saying, the Adobe has this LUT and I could link it to the thing, but I'm going to just put it on my website just in case for whatever reason they might delete it down the road. And that was like 3 years. And that was like 3 years ago. So I'm like, thank God he sent it. I downloaded it and it worked. I already released a short this morning and it like looks completely different compared to what the Premiere was exporting prior. And oh my God, like I was just, that was one thing I was going to actually talk to you, Dario, after this call was.
It was about that, huh? I was wondering why you delayed it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Listen, but going into the mentor stuff, what's the name of that program you're using? I mean, we're not good. I don't want to do it, but I'm just curious.
So there's one that's called UGurus, and That one is mainly, it used to be something for people doing freelance web design and help build their freelance web design into more of an agency. And so it's not very tuned to videographers, but the mentorship is still extremely valuable. And the other one I'm in is 8-figure agency. These guys, Jordan Rosh and Zach Veith out of the United States. And so I get on a call with Zach once a week, and we're just laying out, okay, how do we get the agency to the next level and really build this business? And it's really great accountability. I guess you guys could probably speak to accountability because you got a partnership here. For me, I don't have a business partner in this. So it's really great to have that accountability every week. And also he's introducing me to so many different, strategies. And the biggest one so far has been related to operations and actually doing SOPs and really dialing in my process. So an SOP is a standard operating procedure. And so for every single project now, we have a standard operating procedure, right? Okay. And you have it actually documented and mapped out. Okay. Step one, what are we going to do after our discovery call? And when the client is saying, okay, let's move ahead with the project, what we're going to do is we're going to invoice them our deposit. Okay. Step two, we've received the invoice. Step three, now we're going to do a welcoming onboarding email and mapping out this entire process of your project right from start to finish.
That's interesting. We've been doing that lately as well. Like we're mapping it all out.
Yeah, and it's so beneficial. And now that I do it, I can't believe that I didn't do this for the past 4 years, right? It was just always.
What do you do with the deposit? Like the one thing I was trying to figure out, I think I'm going to start implementing it, is I'm going to start doing right when they sign, we need to get a 15% deposit. And then before the production date, I'm thinking of doing 35% is due. And then after the production date, I issue the other 50%, or maybe at first draft. What's your breakdown for that?
So, it varies on the size of the project. And, typically if it's like a 5K project, we're doing 50 to start, 50 upon completion. Now, on a bigger project, say above 15,000, I would first speak with the client and kind of propose a payment term. So for something above 15,000, I would say it'd be 25%. And then, at a certain portion, if it's a 2-month project, we want to keep cash flow coming into the business. So I would say it'd be 15 and then invoice to 50%. And then upon completion up to 100%. But I think just speaking with your client and finding something that works, but like I said, on the lower end, like 5 to 10K, I think it's like 50-50 is pretty reasonable. That's kind of how I approach that.
Because we're right now moving in the 10 plus range. So I want to implement this new format. I did have someone give me resistance on the 50-50. And now I think, and I noticed even though you say 50% due on contract signing, it still takes them a little bit to process it through, right? So my new thing is going to be, you give me 15%. Once I receive it, then we start the pre-production process, right? And I'm really going into a break. I'm breaking down the pre-production process for them because it's like a 10-stepper for us, right? I don't know how many steps you got for you. It's about, actually, if 2 of them could be removed depending on if they need actors or whatnot. So it's about 8 to 10 steps. So that's one thing I'm doing. By the way, I wanted to mention something. One thing you were doing with the 50-50, you do 50% when the project is finished. I'd recommend you stop doing when the project is finished. Just move it to when you deliver the rough draft for them. And I'll tell you why. Sometimes before you get to the final, like here offboarding, this is the final version, it might take quite a bit of time because you got to wait for them to give you their revision notes and everything. Our standard is 48 to 72 hours, but some guys, some clients need a week or more. So it delays your cash flow process, I guess, in a way, right? Because if you're expecting it, it's okay, I'm supposed to be done this project by that point. If they take a lot longer, then it's boom, I'm now getting it 2 months later than I expected it, right?
You need to pay the editor, you need to pay your overhead, whatever it might be. And this way it just kind of standardizes the process a little bit for you in terms of how you get it. And at that point, that shouldn't be an issue because you're already creating the project with the client and you are both serious about it. So at least sending it through is key because a lot of the time they have 30-day pay periods as well. So if you wait till the offboarding, which as Dario said could delay from 2 to 3 weeks after, who knows, the main point of contact doesn't see it in time. It's a weekend, then it's a long weekend. By the time they send it to their superiors, then they take like another week. By the time all that feedback gets to you, it could be another 2 weeks. So that way, if you send the invoice with the first draft, you at least start the 30-day clock so that you actually get paid pretty much around the time that you actually finish the project, technically speaking. So it's more so to take that into account.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good tip.
I was actually going to say this is probably a good point to kind of to end off the call, since we've already hit about an hour and 20 minutes. We usually try to keep it around an hour, but like, sometimes these discussions, they get really good, so we don't want to stop them. And Liam, honestly, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
I like how he was asking a lot of questions. Like this is good. I like this.
You told me to bring some questions, and then I wrote down 4 bullet points, and then I asked a ton of questions. So yeah, now it was cool. To get your feedback on a lot of different stuff and have this discussion today. It was super cool. I want to, appreciate you guys having me on here.
Yeah, thank you.